joining this interview session. I really appreciate you taking time out. So let's just get to it. Gary, tell us who you are and tell us about your life.
Gary Morini has a high school diploma. I did architectural drafting. I drifted here, there, everywhere. I had so many different life experiences. I had no direction. I was looking for work here and there and everywhere. I actually, my love of music, when I got into the workforce, I was also trying to get in a rock and roll band. We're talking 1970, mid 70s. And so I didn't really, I just, what I liked to do was be outside. I wasn't good with the drafting in a classroom setup. So what I was doing was driving a truck, a straight job, because I made very good money. And then I could have my nights and weekends to myself for practicing on the drums and practicing with the band. And then on weekends, we were doing gigs and playing out. And I was in one band and then another band. And finally, the last band I was in, we did really well for 3 years. We were playing out every weekend. We were booked like a month in advance, which was nice, you know. It wasn't about the money, but it was having fun and playing music, which is a love. But as I grew up, I live a stone's throw from Teterboro Airport. And even as a young boy, maybe 10, 12 years old, my sister and I would get on the bicycles and drive down to the airport, Teterboro Airport, and there was no fence. Planes weren't locked up. We would be sitting shoulder to shoulder in a little 150 or whatever it was, Cessna. I'm throwing the switches, dialing the dials, just praying one of them would start. I'm making believe I'm flying. As I was visited by cousins, relatives, we all visited each other weekly. And when cousins visited me, I was like, come on, get on my sister's bike, we'll go down to the airport. So again, we go down, we sit in a plane, we go in this plane, you get in that plane, I go in this plane. I always wanted to fly. I always loved speed. And that's what brought me eventually, later on in life, to auto racing. I had menial jobs, and then I needed to get serious about a career. So late in life, it wasn't until I was 37 years old that I hooked up with the Dent Wizard. The mom and pop organization, they bought the New Jersey franchise. And it was a brand new company. They needed 2 guys to go to the school, learn the trade, and get their business off the ground. And me and another guy was the first ones. So I got in on the ground floor of this company. So I was there for over 7 weeks. I learned this trade, which was very hard to learn. Signed all kinds of non-compete agreements and secrecy agreements. And I worked for them for 16 years. I made that company what it is because I was pretty damn good at it right from the beginning. They grew pretty nicely. It got to be like a couple of $1 million a year business. And then they really started to get crazy with the rules and regulations and this and that. They reneged on everything they ever promised from the beginning. So that didn't sit well with me. So after 16 years, I went against the contract, the secrecy agreement that I signed. And I had arguments with the managers, and I said, that's it, I'm leaving. So I had no choice but to try to make a living at doing what I did best. So that's how Body Smooth Car Care came about. And that was the November 5th of 2007. And I did very well for myself. I did that for uh, 13 years. But at the end of that 12 years or 13 years, I had developed spinal stenosis and I couldn't do the work anymore, especially in a very cold weather. So I was forced into retirement. But meanwhile, I had bought a Porsche 944, the Burgundy Porsche, and I developed it. Well, what happened was I got introduced to the Porsche Club. And so when they started sending me magazines each month, I had signed up for one of their driver education events. And it was at Pocono, September of '94. And they put an instructor in the car with me. It was a 3-day thing. And I fell in love with it as soon as I went there the first time. They put an instructor in the car with you and they show you how to do it and what to look for and how the car should feel on the track. And I did that for 22 years. I had moved up the ratings after 14 years, I was asked to become an instructor. So I instructed for them for like the last 7 years. Unfortunately, I don't do the work and I don't race anymore because the money is a factor. I'm actually retired now, and it's expensive. I did all the tracks in this area. I did them over and over and over, and after a while, I was like, all right, I did it. No matter what, because I eventually moved up to this silver Porsche Cayman, so now I had double the horsepower. And I was going faster on the same track. My lap times were faster. But no matter what, there's big money out there, and they're the ones going the fastest. So I couldn't compete with the big money, If I could not do 140, they're doing 200. And when you see them coming in the mirror, that closing speed is just amazing. I just hold my line, and they go zooming past me. I have a lot of fond memories. I did it for 22 years. And the last time I was on the track was probably 2016, something like that. But I always loved flying. So I've been flying model airplanes since 1985. And now that's 35 years. And again, I always love speed, so I do enjoy flying a glider, but my heart is in speed. So flying jets really warms my heart. And although I'm only flying these little rinky-dink electric jets for a 2.5-minute flight, but it warms my heart. It gives me a thrill. Then I see people like you just trying to hang on because you're so awesome. The birds you have to play with, again, just like with the Porsche. Okay, now I can go this fast, but I can't go that fast. So I just try to keep up with you guys, but I could never do it financially. But I have fun. Besides that, I have other interests. I always loved the water. Grew up with a pool in the backyard, so eventually a buddy of mine took me for a ride on his boat on the lake, and that was fun. I then bought a jet ski, which was probably 2000, the year 2000. And then I upgraded to this fast jet ski. I was doing 72 miles an hour on the water, and that was a lot of fun. That was a Kawasaki 1200 cc 2-stroke. And then I bought a 4-stroke, and that was 2012. And my back couldn't take the pounding of the waves anymore. So I bought a boat, and this is my 3rd season with the boat. And with the coronavirus, I can only hope to get on the water this year. Last year, if you remember, we had the problem with the algae blooms. So I didn't get much use of it. And this year, I hope to God I can get some use out of it this year too. But I never had kids. And so all I have is all my toys, and I have a lot of toys. Boats and cars and planes and jets and drums. And that's my life. I also am very spiritual, and I keep Jesus Christ close to my heart. And because this is a hell of a time we're going through, and I think the time is getting close. You could see the newspaper in one hand and the book of Revelations in the other hand, and it's getting close. And we're in a heap of trouble. So I got to keep close to my Jesus. And that's the true Gary Morini.
Very interesting, Gary. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go back to what you just said. We're in a lot of trouble. What do you mean by that?
Well, before the coronavirus, the population exploded and people are just crazy. They're all out for themselves. It's a dangerous world out there. The drugs, the crime. I'm not a city person, so living in the city would be really a scary place to be. But I live in the suburbs. I bought a house. I'm here 22 years now, which is amazing. Time goes by so fast. But the world is in trouble. I mean, it started off getting crazy, and the global warming is coinciding with the massive storms that we have, tsunamis and hurricanes getting worse and worse. The ice shelves are melting. The oceans are rising. All predicted in the book of Revelations. So I'm waiting to see my maker. And when he comes, it can't be soon enough. Take me home.
Is there any way, do you think, is there any way that we could help slow it down? What if we don't want the end to come now?
Well, I'm ready. I mean, we have to be ready. Can you slow it down? No, it's not up to us. We can't even do anything to buy more time. Actually, I'm worried that with this virus and the food banks, the farmers are growing the crops, but they don't have the trucks to pick it up. So they're just dumping a lot of food in the garbage. And then further down the road, with terrible storms and droughts and everything else, we're not even going to be able to grow the amount of food that we need for the people that are here. So I'm not too sure where that's going as far as food supply for the masses. So I don't have a lot of hope. For me, I never had kids. But people that have kids, I pray for them, because your heart goes out to these kids. I have a relative now that her daughter was born during 9/11, and that was a terrible time for this country. And now, fast forward 12 years later, and she's not going to be able to go to her senior prom, and she's going to graduate this year, but who knows what that's going to be like. My wife is a teacher, and for a month and a half, she's been teaching from home. She's going crazy. The kids are going crazy. The kids aren't really doing the work, and then teachers are just like pushing them through. Okay, you passed. 52, you passed. I don't know what next year is going to be like for these kids, but I never had them, so.
Is that a choice that you made that you didn't have kids, or was there another reason that you want to share?
Because of my background in rock and roll, being in and out of bands and clubs, and the type of people you meet, I just never met somebody. I always wanted to get married and have kids. I love kids. Be on the floor rolling around with them if I could. But I never met somebody that was quality enough to settle down with. And then when I finally did, it was too late for us. We were already well into our 40s, and we just couldn't have kids. And now I'm grateful for that, because if I did have a kid, it would be a hard life for them, and maybe no future, or a gloomy future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of confidence in the way this world is going. I see New York City and all the coastal cities going underwater before 2030.
Let's assume God and Jesus Christ comes to you now, and it's all over. Did you have a good life? Are you happy and satisfied with your life?
Yes, I am. I had a very good life. I'm satisfied. I did a lot of great things. I mean, I'm a kid at heart, so I have a lot of toys, and I just play everything I do. If I'm in the water, if I'm in the car, if I'm at the flying field, I'm always playing. And my life is just a bowl of cherries. I don't know how I was so lucky to make the money I did. And right now, like, the car business is absolutely in the toilet. It's been going downhill for, a couple of years, but right now it's like really, really bad. I mean, car dealerships, they let so many salespeople go because they're not allowed to sell cars. The cars they sell online, they're delivering to people's houses. You're not allowed to come to the store. The service departments are open, and the parts departments are open, but not the sales department. The showrooms are closed. So there's very little money to be made there, and I'm glad that I made my money and I'm out. I'm retired a year, and I'm living off my few investments, and I'm happy. I'm content. I've got a good thing going. I got a beautiful house, and I've got a good life. But the world around me is crumbling, and that's the problem. We're stuck in the house. I'm going crazy.
What is the happiest moment of your life?
I have a lot of happy moments. The happiest moment. The day I got married was pretty happy. The day I left the dent was really happy. I told them all, go piss off. How many people would love to tell their boss, bye-bye? And then I made it. I should have done that years ago. But I was bound by the contract, non-compete. And I was scared to leave them. I had plenty of chances to leave them sooner, but I didn't.
What is You know, you mentioned you retired, so obviously you've gone through a lot. What is the proudest moment of your life?
Uh, Probably not one real proud moment. Uh, I had at one time built, after flying for a bunch of years, I built a quarter scale P-51 Mustang. And I don't really like warbirds, so I did it up in all yellow Rockwell International, which actually was Bob Hoover's plane. And I built that and flew it. And I had 100 or more flights with that. And that was a pretty proud moment. That thing was, it was really a nice flying plane. It was very fast. It was clocked at 128 miles an hour. And for a quarter scale plane, that's pretty fast. So I was pretty proud of how that thing flew. Built it myself. The kit was a box of lumber. It was huge, as big as a sofa, just a box of lumber with plans. And I built it nice. It was a fun plane to build. Um, so coming home after a day of flying this plane, and you clean all the smuts off it, and you put it in the car proudly, for another day. That's a proud moment.
Okay. Um, Now, are your parents still alive or are they deceased?
Uh, no, no, they're all gone. Everybody's gone. My sister died 7 years ago. My mother's gone 30 years, and my father's gone 2 years. And because I never had kids, it's just me. So that's why I just live for myself. Yes, I have a wife, and we're going day by day. We're having a good thing. We have a good thing going. Um, but having never had kids and nobody else, I have a lot of close relatives. Being a large Italian family, I grew up with all my cousins on both sides, so I'm pretty close with all of them. But that's not having like your own siblings, or that's not like having your own kids. People my age, I'm 66, are grandparents. People my age are grandparents by now. So it's a love I never had. It would have been a different life if I had kids.
A couple more questions and we could end the session. What is the meaning of life to you? Why are we here?
That's a good question. Well, we're here. God made us all in his image, and our mission in life is supposed to be spread the good news that Jesus is coming again. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. What are we doing here? I guess uh, some people don't believe in a supreme being, and they believe that after this life is over, you're just going to be in the ground forever, and that's it. I believe differently. I'm believing that I'm going to live in eternal light with God the Father.
Do you go to church every Sunday?
I did for a long time, and I've been in a dry spell for 1 year, mostly because I had a relapse with my back exactly a year ago, because Palm Sunday last year was the last, that was the first Sunday that I had missed in about 3 or 4 years of going weekly. And I'll go back. But yeah, something's missing when I don't go. When I go, I get a lot out of it. I feel uplifted when I go. So there's something missing if I don't go. So I'll be back.
Very nice. Before we end this, any message that you want to give out to anybody and everybody that might be listening to this, the audience, about what we're going through with the coronavirus and the way we live our lives? Any advice, any message you want to give out before we end the session?
Advice coming from Gary Morini. Who the hell would listen? I hope Joe Biden doesn't get elected. We're gonna have a president election soon. Maybe it's gonna be Trump. Who knows? And I think he did a good job, but I am a little fearful. So could be the Antichrist. That's my feeling. Life's been sweet for him for a long time. He pushes a lot of buttons. These are my truest feelings, and I'm done. Cut.
Thank you, Gary.